Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Decryption and I hope you are well. Here's a question for you. What do Batman, Elder Scrolls, GTA, Fallout, Broforce, Mafia, Mass Effect, High on Life, Dying Light, LA Noire, Sleeping Dogs, Wolfenstein, Dishonored, Bully, Tomb Raider, Destroy All Humans, Deathloop, We Happy Few, Far Cry, Just Cause, Super Mario Odyssey, King Summoning Man, RimWorld, Knight's Path and Futurama all have in common? And frankly, most games made also have in common patrol points, or areas where NPCs will simply walk around or between several points. They've got multiple different names: patrol points, waypoints, destination points, all sorts of stuff like this, but they all contain some form of system where you can tell an AI, go to this location and then follow this path. You're pathfinding, you're patrolling, you're telling them to go between a set of locations or to a location in a specific way. It's one of the most common things in gaming that you will see, whether you're playing a stealth game or if you're watching NPCs walk around, you will see them move between set points. If you play stealth games, it's very, very common to see NPCs walking specific ways. There are some games that tinker with this methodology where they will make them change their patrol paths when you're discovered, but they still use these set principles. So in today's tutorial, we're going to continue on with our previous tutorial where we added our patrol point system, and we're going to actually start making AI follow the patrol points. So let's get started. So you don't really need the patrol system that we set up last time to make this system work, but you do need some form of patrol points where it shows you the previous points and the next points so they all link together. Because that's going to be the key to our system. We're going to have a system where we can tell the NPC or the guard, find the nearest patrol point if you need to, otherwise we can override their default one. And we will say, here's this one, go forwards. And they'll look at the next point and they'll walk up to here. Then they'll look at the next point and walk over to here, then over to here, blah, blah, blah. And they'll just keep following it. And it's going to be absolutely perfect for our jail cell in here, where we can have the guards simply just wander around here like so, where they'll walk around this location and you have to either sneak past them or steal a key from them. We can even have off branches where we override it and say, coming here, shout something at the player and walk out. Something like that. But the key thing we need, there's loads of grass in there, is to have the patrol system. So we're going to carry on using the state trees. So I'm going to open up my content drawer here. And I'm going to go into my AI folder, and you'll see we've already got the follow actor and random roam. So I'm going to come and create a new artificial intelligence state tree, and I'll call it ST Patrol, because that's all we're doing, we're patrolling. I'm going to open it up. So we're going to start with the most basic version first. We're going to have a guard or an NPC, and we're going to give them a single patrol point saying follow this. Then we'll give them a direction, and then after that we will start building it up where the guards will find the closest patrol point if you randomly spawn them. It might be useful for that. So the first thing we need to do is actually tell our NPC somehow this is a patrol point you want to follow. So on our NPCs already, we do have an actor to follow here, which is just a standard actor. So I'm going to come and instantly set the actor context class to our BP NPC, because that's the class of my NPC, and I'll hit compile and save. So thinking logically on how a patrol point should work, the NPC first needs to get to the patrol point. So we need a task to move them to a set patrol point. But for him to get to the patrol point, he needs to know which patrol point they have to get to. So we need a task to move them to the patrol point. I'm going to come back into my content drawer, and inside my tasks folder, I'm actually going to copy the STT follow actor task. If you've not got this, I will show it in a moment, but it's a super simple one, but it does everything we need. I'm going to call it STT move to patrol point. I'm going to open it up. So all this does is when you enter the state, it checks if the actor to follow is valid, otherwise it finishes the task, then it simply moves them to it. So the only changes I'm going to make is I'm going to standardize it again. So instead of character, I'm going to call it NPC owner, because that's what we do on other tasks. So instead of using actor to follow, what I'm actually going to do is drag off the NPC owner, and I'm going to drag off and do get actor to follow, and then I'm going to do my validator get on this one instead. So the main reason we're doing it here instead of creating on the evaluator is the evaluator only runs at the start of your tree. If you're wanting something that's continuously updating, you can't use the evaluator unless you use the evaluator's tick function. Whether it's a bug or not, I'm not sure just yet. But now instead of actor to follow, we can drag in the NPC owner, and we can just do get actor to follow again, and I can connect this up to the goal actor, and we're done. I'm going to untick continuous goal tracking because I don't want it, and I'm going to compile and save. As a little nicety, in my class settings, I'm just going to set the display name to move to patrol, and I'll hit compile and save. So now we can delete off the actor to follow, and then I'll hit compile and save. Now back in our patrol tree, our state tree, we can right click the root, add a child state, and I'll call it go to patrol point, and I'll add a task which will be our new move to patrol point, and the NPC owner, you can see it's automatically bound. NPC owner will be our actor. So now this will actually make them move to it, but what do they need to do once they arrive at it? Well, then they need to actually choose what they're going to do. So by this, if we have a patrol system which simply circles this house here, when it gets to this patrol point, what does it need to do? Does it need to go forwards this way or backwards that way because it's a circle? Or do they need to stop once they've completed the circle? Or do you want it once they've gone round it, they can come back and do it reverse way? There's many different ways you may want this to work. So let's build it in so we can easily switch between what behavior he has on the patrol point. So I'm going to come back into my content drawer, and inside my enums, I'm going to right click blueprint enumeration. I'm going to call it NPC patrol point states. So I'm going to open it up. So I'm going to add all the different variations that I want them to do. So I want it to loop forwards, which will go around the loop and then continuously going around the same loop. We'll have loop backwards, which will do it backwards in case we want NPCs walking the opposite way. We've also got loop reverse, which will simply reverse the direction that they were in before. And then our final one will be stop, where they'll just stop at the end. Once they've completed the tree, that's it. Maybe you want to do something else. Maybe your mission will fail, something like that. And now I'm going to come and open up my NPC, and I'm going to add this variable just at the bottom of their stats here. I'm going to call it patrol point state, and I'm going to set it to a type of our new patrol states variable here. I'll make sure it's instance editable, and I'll tick compile. And now we can set the default one to be loop forwards, which just means they'll go from this one around the house and then keep doing it over and over again. So now that we have this, what do we need to do next in our state tree? Now we need to get this enum and find the next point that we need to go to. This could be going forwards, going backwards, stopping, whatever. So I'm going to come back to my content drawer, and inside my AI tasks folder, I'm going to create another new task. So blueprint class, all classes, state tree task, and I'll make sure I click the task one, STT underscore get next patrol point. I'll open this up. I'll override the enter state function here, and then we need to pass in the NPC into it so we know who we're looking at and what state they have. So we'll call it NPC owner. I'll set it to a type of BP NPC, and I'll make sure to set the category to input, otherwise we won't be able to pass it into it. And then from here, I can drag this down, drag off and do get patrol states. And then from here, I can actually drag off and do a switch. A switch is the equivalent of a bunch of branches or if statements. It just makes it a lot easier. So instead of doing if loop forwards on a branch, then if loop backwards, you literally just have it nice and neat like so. So what do we need to do? So the first one is the loop forwards. So we need to get their current actor to follow. So if we drag off the NPC owner and do get actor to follow, from here, we actually need to get the list of patrol points that we need to go to next. So if you've not done the patrol visualization tool we did in the first episode, we actually have an array of points that each node can have. And because it's an array, it means you can have branching patrol paths. So we need a way to get this variable. So I'm going to come and create a new interface in some interfaces folder. I'll create a new folder called patrol points, and inside here, right click blueprint interface, DPI patrol, and I'll open this up. So realistically, what do we need from the patrol point? Well, we just kind of need it to give us a random point that we need to go to next. And whether we're going forwards or backwards, we can set as a boolean. So what I'm actually going to do is create a single function called get next patrol point. I'm going to add a new input called is forwards and set it to a type of boolean. And we'll make sure that it has an output of the patrol point we need to take. So I'll just say patrol point, and I'll set it to a type of BP patrol like so. And we can hit compile and save. Now I'll come and open up my patrol point and add this interface inside the class settings at the top. And now you'll see at the interfaces at the side, we have the get next patrol point. If I double click it, you will see we now have our function. So we could add a bunch of branches into here and make it do it, but there's actually a smarter way we can actually go about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag off patrol point here. I'm actually going to tap random array item. So it's getting a random item from an array. It will be an array of patrol points. If I now drag off of this and do select, you can see we have to give it two arrays. So let's give it the next points, and we'll give it the previous points. And then it wants an index, so our index will be our is forwards like so. So if it's forwards, true, it means we're going to the next point, then it will get the next points array into here, which will randomize and return it. If we're going backwards, because it'll be false, it will get the previous points and go it that way. So a nice easy function, no if statements, just a simple select to go the correct way. And now that we've done this, in our get next patrol point, we can simply drag off this actor to follow and choose get next patrol point from our BPI patrol points interface, and I'll connect it to the loop forwards, and I'll tick is going forwards. But what I will also do is copy this just down here, connect the target up to the actor to follow, and connect it to loop backwards, but unticking the is forwards. And now from here, we can actually get the NPC owner and we can set the actor to follow, and we can use the interface that we have on BPI character, and I'll connect the new actor to it. I don't want to remember the old one, just like so. And then once we've set both of them, we'll just drag off and call finish task. If you don't call finish task, the task will essentially go on forever and it will never actually succeed. And I can hit compile and save. So now that we've done this, we'll come back to the loop reverse and the stop later. But if we come back to the state tree now, right click the patrol point, add sibling state, and we will say get new patrol point. I'll add our new task to it that we've added, and the owner I will pass in the actor. You'll see we're missing transitions, so let's just click go to patrol point, and I'll set this transition to simply on completed go to the next state, which will go down. When this one is completed, I will simply add a transition and say once it's completed, go back up to, so it'll come back down and loop. We've created a looping state tree now. So let's give it a go and see if our NPC will actually walk around these locations. So the first thing we're going to have to do though is actually assign the state tree to his controller. So if we search to his controller now, we can see we've assigned him the AI follow controller. I'm actually going to copy this down and I'll just rename it to patrol, and I'll open this up. Inside the state tree, I'll open full blueprint editor and click on the state tree, and inside here I will assign our new patrol like so. And we'll hit compile and save. And now that we've created the new controller, we can just simply come and assign it back to this guard here. So let's give it a go. So he should now, if we move him back a little bit, walk over to the patrol point, make a decision and walk to the next one, and continuously keep doing it. So you'll see he's walking to it and then he's instantly walking to the next one. There we go, ladies and gentlemen, a super basic patrol point walking forwards. So see, he's going to basically walk around, he'll come to this and he'll make a random decision to which way he wants to go. So he's decided to go this way, and you can add different behaviors to the specific patrol points, which we'll look at doing later. When he arrives at the patrol point, he may stop and idle for a few moments. But you'll see now, because he's set to loop forwards, he will get back to the beginning and then instantly start walking down. Because we have also coded in the backwards way as well, if we come down and set him to loop backwards, when he first arrives at the patrol point, he will basically go the opposite direction and keep looping that way, which is useful if you ever want two guards walking around a platform opposite way from each other. You very well may want them to just walk one forwards, one backwards. So you'll see he's now walking and he will walk backwards throughout the tree. Perfect. So how do we go about doing the reversing part? Because for them to reverse, we need to know if they've arrived at the starting node or not, because otherwise they're going to be reversing between individual points. So what we need to do is when we first start the tree, we need to cache the patrol point they started at, and then when he arrives at it again, then we can activate the reverse and make him go the opposite way. So to make this easier for us, what I'm actually going to do is modify the enum we added, and instead of just having a loop reverse, what I'm going to do is have a loop reverse forwards, so he's currently walking forwards, and then we'll have a loop reverse backwards, so then we know he's going backwards. And the reason we're going to do this is otherwise we'll have to add a variable to our NPC to tell them which way they're currently going. If we've already got an enum, we may as well already use it. So loop reverse will become loop reverse forwards, so he's currently walking forwards, and then I'll add a new one of loop reverse backwards. And this is a nice easy way for us to tell which direction they're going and what their behavior is. So now if we come back to our get next patrol point here, we know he's currently going forwards, so we actually need to check it. Have you arrived at your starting node yet? So in order for us to get the starting node when the state tree first starts, and then we don't really need to get it again after that, we can use an evaluator. I'm going to come into my content drawer, evaluators, and I'm going to copy get follow details, and I'll call it ste get patrol details. I'll open this up. So this is just a simple one we created before where we get the actor to follow and set it, but we don't actually need to get the actor to follow, so I'll rename it to starting patrol point, and we'll set it to the actor to follow just like that. And that's all it needs to do. So when the tree first starts, it will cache whatever our current actor to follow is. Back on our patrol point, we'll add this evaluator to it, and you'll see it will now pass in the NPC owner, and it will cache the starting patrol point. And now when we're getting a new patrol point, we actually need to pass in this starting patrol point. So on here, I will add a new variable called starting patrol point, set it to a type of actor, and it will be an input, so we'll just drag it in there, tick the eyeball. Back on our state tree, let's just pass this in so we don't forget. On here, we will add in the ste get patrol details starting patrol point, compile and save. So if they are loop reversing forwards, it means they're technically walking forwards, but until they get to the start point that we've now added, then they'll switch to reversing. So what I'm going to do before we start doing that is actually just clean this up a little just while we're here, because these are doing the exact same thing. I'm going to highlight just the top row, bottom, right click, convert it to function, and we'll just call this get next point. I'll open it up and just check it's doing it correctly. So it is coming across, getting the actor to follow, getting the next point from it. The is forwards I will promote to a variable so we can pass it in. Then it'll set the actor to follow, then it'll return it. Okay, that's perfectly fine. So we can put that here. We can delete this one off at the bottom, paste it just below like so. And now we've basically turned these to single nodes, which makes it a lot easier when we're looking at doing the loop reverse forwards and backwards. So what do we need to do? Well, so for both of these, we actually need to tell, have we arrived at the start point yet or not? So I'm going to add a new variable called as arrived at start, and I will just grab in the NPC owner. I will drag off and say get actor to follow, which is the current patrol point. And I'll drag off and say equals and the starting patrol point like so. But are they the same thing? I'll click on has arrived at start and I'll add a return output saying has hit start, and I'll just plug it in here. It saves us having to do this over and over again. But what I will also do to make this easier later is I'll just make sure I tick pure here. Pure just means when we drag it out, we just have a function like that. So we can now easily check have we hit the start point or not. So when looping forwards, have we hit the start point? If we have hit the start point, what do we want to do? Well, we're going to want to change the enum over to loop reverse backwards because we've hit the start point. So I'll take the NPC owner, I'll say set patrol point state, and I'll set it to loop backwards. And then because we've arrived at the start point, we actually need to tell it now to go backwards. I'm going to drag this get next point down here and tell it go to the next point, which isn't forwards because we're going backwards. However, if we haven't hit the start point, then we know we can just drag this up and go forwards like so. And we'll just connect the finished tasks up. So let's wrap this in a comment so we know what it does for future. Loop reverse forwards. Then we can actually copy most of this just below, and we'll do loop reverse backwards, and we'll connect it all the way down to this one. And if we've arrived at the start, which is true, then we want to reverse it to go forwards. We are moving forwards. Otherwise, we're moving backwards, so then go back. Let's try it now, ladies and gentlemen. So I have set the character's movement speed up a little bit. So if we search for max walk speed, I've told him to run at 450, just so we don't have to wait for him to circle this house every time walking. He will run to and do it. So what I'm expecting now is he's currently set to loop forwards, so he'll hit the start point, change himself to reverse, run all the way reverse of it. Once he gets back to the end point, then it should flip it back. So now you can see he is running around it and he's going reverse because he first hit the start node. Now when he comes back around patrolling the house, you will see he will go and reverse back around it. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. He is now running around the house, and when he finally comes back round, he will reverse. So we now have 4 states to our AI. We can tell him to go forwards, we can tell him to go backwards, which is the way he's going now. We can tell him to go reverse forwards or reverse backwards, and it'll just change which direction they go. Now he is patrolling the house. Great. So what's next? So the next step is to actually code the stop point in. But this one's going to take a little bit of logic to actually make work. Because at the moment, our get next patrol point runs when they reach their destination. So they reach a patrol point, it runs this function to tell them what next point to go to. The problem is, when he first starts the game, he needs to run to the patrol point in order to arrive at it. But because he's arriving at it, it's counting it as the stopping point. So because he's reached the start again, it will stop. So what we need to do is we need to have a way of telling our get next patrol point they've not actually arrived at the patrol point yet, they're just starting to arrive at it. After that, then stop them if they arrive back at the start point again. So they need to actually walk up to it, be allowed to hit the start, move on to the next one, and then only when they come back around, then it stops. So the easiest way to go around this is we're just going to add another variable. So just under this, we've had a variable called patrol point started, and I'll make it a boolean. We don't need it to be instance editable because we're not going to edit it in the world anyway. And then now on the get next patrol point, I'll just give us some space, move this up a bit. Then on start, first thing we're going to do is we're going to check, have they arrived at the start? So when they first start, they will run to the start node. So they have arrived. After this, we're going to actually check the NPC's owner, their get patrol point started. If the patrol point has started, then we only want to check it when they hit true. So they've arrived at the start point. They have also started the patrol point already, and that simply means we set the actor to follow to empty like that. Then we finish it. Nice and easy. If they haven't started it yet, then we can actually set the started because they've arrived at it and they're ready to go to their first patrol point, and then we'll run the get next patrol point. We do need to tidy this up because it's a bit messy, so we'll do that in a moment. And if they haven't arrived at the start, then they'll just go forwards as well. Let's make it into a function because that'll make it a lot easier. So we'll right click and we'll do collapse the function, and I'll just call it patrol point stop logic, and then straight after this we can just do finish. And now that this is neatly tidied away here, it looks a lot neater. We could probably do the same with those, to be fair. So inside here, let's just double check it. So it checks straight away. Have we hit the start point? No, we haven't. Okay, then we'll just go to the next point like so. If we have hit the start point, have we hit it before? If we have, then just outright stop the actor. That's it, we're done. If we haven't, then mark it that we have hit it before because we've hit it now, and then go to the next point like so. Now, using this logic, we can successfully make them run around once and then stop. By default, the stop's behavior is going to be just going forwards. Feel free to change this. You can either stop forwards, stop backwards, either way you want to. I'm just going to be okay with stop at the moment. I'll change the state to stop and let's try it. So he should run up to the stop point, start the logic, so he should run around once and then stop when he arrives at the end. This is perfect for race behavior if you're having a race with another character, or you have to stop a character arriving at a destination. There's many ways where this one can also be very useful. So you'll see he's ran up, he started running around, but this time when he gets back to the start point, he will just immediately freeze. There we go. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. So that's where you'd show quest failed, quest started, whatever you want to do. There we go. He's now successfully stopped. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, the patrolling guard. We now have unlocked the ability in our game to make them loop in any way we want. So we'll just set him to loop forwards, we'll drag him down, and we'll say you can loop upwards. And now we have multiple guards rolling around this house. If you've got a stealth game or something like that, you've got a patrol system. Nice and easy, didn't take much time, and super flexible with what you want to do. In the next few episodes of the AI series, what we're going to do is start adding specialist functions to these specific patrol point nodes. And what we're going to do for each node is we're going to give it the ability to make them do something when they arrive at it. It might not be mandatory, but we'll add the ability to add specialist functions to each node. So it very well could be that we have one of these nodes inside this house, and he does a loop of the perimeter walking around the house, and then he goes into the house, and we can put a specialist function on where he'll stand there for a moment and look around just to observe, and then he turns around and patrols again. So little add-ons like that which will make the game that much cooler. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this helps. Any issues at all, please let me know. My name is Decryption, and I will see you next time.